See, now ultimately here is your problem. What you are trying to do at the moment is you are not trying to build a personal brand. We cannot call it that. You are doing something else entirely, and I guarantee you probably have absolutely no idea that you are. Maybe this is confusing you. It's like, why is this guy speaking in riddles? I'm watching all these videos. I'm doing all this research. I know that trust is the new currency. It's the new leverage. I'm trying to build a personal brand by posting content. Well, let me explain to you what I mean. I'm going to prove to you right now that what you are currently doing is you are not building a personal brand at all, even though you think you are. And I will do so by asking you this question. Can you tell me, right now, what personal branding actually means? As in, do you have a definition? I'll tell you what probably just happened then. You had a load of different things firing off in your head, and all of those different thoughts just created this blur, and you can't actually give me a clear definition for this term that everybody keeps throwing around. Therein lies the problem. Let's fix that right now. Here is my unchallenged definition, which I'm sure I will refine as the time goes on. It is a particular identity or an image that is regarded as an asset, which I took this from the Oxford Dictionary's definition of what brand means, and then we throw personal on the front of it. Well, it's exclusively associated with you, or it is essentially the thoughts and feelings that are associated with you as a person, and by extension, your offer. Now, of course, the key here is that it is personal. It is exclusively associated with you, nobody else. However, when we look at your content, can we definitively say, nobody else could make this but me? Because here is what most of you are doing right now. You are not building a personal brand, you are building what we will call a value brand. There is a clear distinction to be made. And look, okay, I'll be the first to admit it, this is exactly the same mistake that I've been making for like 3 years by this point. For instance, if we look at some of my old content on YouTube specific, we've got to ask, is this conveying an image that only I can convey? And that means we take out me, my story, everything to do with me, and we just basically put the script in front of another person and have them do the video out. For the most part, so probably about 98% of the content that I had put out, I would say definitively no. Even up to more recently. Again, I've had a few good videos that I have made, but again, we've got to ask ourselves when we look at this stuff, and as well including the contents of the video, of course, is that something that only I can convey? Again, no. Like, don't these visuals look very, very similar to things that you've seen elsewhere? That's because they are. So that's not unique to me. And so here is what I would say is the ultimate test of whether or not you are building a value brand and not a personal brand. Could another creator in your niche or in a parallel space make this video that you are making, this piece of content, and also end up having basically nothing lost if they did? If the answer is no, well, I would say that's awesome. You are probably making one-of-one content that other people can't really replicate. And this is probably what you're looking like right now, and if it's not right now, probably tomorrow, next week, or next month. But if the answer is yes, if you think that somebody could take your video, replicate it, and have basically nothing lost, even by taking you out of the picture, then I would have to say it's nothing personal. Damn, that was witty. That's some of my old ad writer coming back. You are not doing a very good job of setting yourself apart. Essentially, you look like everybody else. And now, ironically, that's supposed to be the entire point of personal branding, is to not look like anybody else. Because ultimately, nobody can compete with being you. But the thing is, everyone can compete with you if you aren't standing out. Now, you're probably going to be wondering, but the free value, I have to give people loads of value so that they like me. And, you know, I gotta give them 7 hours of free value content before they ever consider buying from me. Here is the irony of the whole free value hype. If we look at the definition of the word valuable, well, it needs to be important or useful. But we live in the age of large language models. We live in the age of Google. Nobody cares about random frameworks and random info dumps that literally anybody can just search up and regurgitate. No one cares. So in your attempts to overwhelm your audience and your leads with value, you're not standing out. Anybody can do that. Anybody can hop on AI, assemble me a framework to explain this, or go on Google, read a few forum threads, and just dump the notes that they take into the video. People don't want more information. It's the information age, for goodness sake. They want new ways of thinking, and they want a cool-ass person to give them that new way of thinking, a paradigm shift, a new perspective, and a new worldview. I was listening to a podcast once with Yusuf Lashwell, I hope I pronounced his last name correctly, and he basically said this, and this has stuck with me ever since I heard him say it. Everyone is always waiting for the next cool person to come along. And I thought about this for a second. I was like, wait, that's so true. So for instance, I'll give you an example. Like, if me on YouTube, if I find Daniel Dalen's videos, I'm like, yo, this is so entertaining, this is amazing content, then I'm going to keep watching Daniel Dalen. I am not going to stop watching Daniel Dalen just because I found Suwei Go, and I found his videos were really cool and really useful. I'm not going to stop watching Suwei Go because I found Nero Knowledge, and I found his videos really cool and really entertaining and useful as well. I am not going to stop watching any of those other channels just because I found someone new. And we can also extend this to the other main sort of media consumption that I have for learning and whatnot in business. I'm not going to stop reading Ben Settle's newsletters just because I went ahead and found Daniel Throstle's newsletters. I like them both. They are both cool. And I'm not going to stop reading Daniel Throstle's newsletter just because I found Zorak Adams' newsletter. You are just going to say, hell yeah, more cool people. And I'll make time to actually consume the content from all of them. But if all you're able to offer is the same old information, then people have absolutely no reason to be invested in you. They don't have the reason to keep making you a part of their weeks. And you are just commodifying yourself. So nobody's going to care enough to stick around. And so, to be honest, if you will only take one thing from this entire video, then let it be this. There is no value in information right now. There is value in perspectives. People want cool people to give them cool new perspectives. That is ultimately what everyone wants right now in an age where information is no longer scarce. Rather, it is openly accessible and by basic economic principle, therefore no longer valuable. Now that sounds nice on paper, but obviously the question becomes, well, how do we stop just giving value, which, as we know, ironically is not valuable? How do we stop giving them random bits of information and start giving new perspectives? Like, is there a practical way to actually do this in your content? Well, I would say that the best thing that you can do is start actually treating your brand like a world. Something that I once heard the great A-list copywriter John Carlton say on a podcast a long time ago, and has stuck with me ever since, is the way you win is you walk them through the door into your world. You show them around. And so it's kind of like in Narnia, where they just open the door in the wardrobe, and it's like this vast expanse of unknown land with unknown stories, people, everything. And essentially you would just hold their hand and show them around. That is the metaphor he used. And it's like, my goodness, that is a perfect way to look at it. But of course, what do I mean when I say world? Do I mean like a fantasy world, like Middle-earth or Narnia or something? Well, yes and no. I mean everything to do with you. So that means your worldview, your mission, your backstory, your interests as a person, your aesthetic direction, what kind of styles do you like, what sort of visuals do you like, the place that you're in, the places that you go, the places that are a part of your life, the people who are a part of your life, like a cast of characters in a TV show, your vernacular, just the everyday words that you use, catchphrases and dialect that is exclusive to you, the in-jokes that you have. And that is just to name a few aspects, because if you really think about it, everything around you has a story. Everything around you has depth, and your goal is to try and capture as much of that depth as humanly possible. Ultimately, show your one-of-one character, because there is only one you in this world, and that is your long-term advantage, because nobody can compete with being you. I dare say this is a very real concern. Well, this fluffy stuff, this cool little new perspective, this new way of thinking about building a brand is nice in principle, but surely this is not algorithm friendly, and ultimately that's what matters. We want to get on the algorithm, we want to get in front of people, we want distribution so we can get paid. Well, maybe this isn't very algorithm friendly, or at least not in the short term. And my answer to that is, I don't give a fuck. And I'll tell you why. Editing yourself to try and gain the algorithm's favor is pointless anyway, because in doing so, you end up losing what would have made you interesting in the first place. this constant self-editing to try and appear in a way that you think people will like, and 9 times out of 10 we get that judgment wrong anyway. We don't know what people will like or whatever. And so as we can see, there is no real benefit to just constantly trying to self-optimize for an algorithm. What we want to focus on is not building a brand around what we think will get us validation. We want to build a brand that is our worldview manifest, because that is what makes us interesting. That is what people want to pay attention to. Because remember, like I said, they want perspectives. That is the ultimate value, and that is the gateway to trust. So we have to really ask ourselves, what are we really aiming for here? Do we want lots of short-lived engagement? Because look, what happens after you pop off on the algorithm? What happens after you become this massive sensation with a ton of social media attention? You tend to fall off. You tend to lose relevancy because the trends are always changing. The algorithms are always changing. What social media platforms are the most popular and getting you the most distribution are always changing. Or do we want to try and build a loyal audience that will continuously pay us for being us? And think about it like this. If you're constantly self-editing yourself, think about like maybe when you were in high school and you tried to be cool and, you know, maybe it got you a circle of friends and it got you a girlfriend or something. And then what happens is the moment you start showing your true self and your true nature and standing by your actual values and interests, those people start to disappear from your life. You start to lose them. Because as the saying goes, everything you lose by being real is fake. And look, I can speak from experience, that's exactly what happened to me. Out of those two options, I know exactly which one I'm choosing. I like to think long term in all areas of my life, and that applies also to a business context. I know that by building a audience of people who actually like you for you is what's going to pay you for the rest of your life. And that is really where the true leverage in building a personal brand lies. I appreciate you getting to the end of this video, and I hope you found this new perspective very helpful and insightful. If you found what we were talking about today interesting, then you'll probably find working with me and my team interesting as well. Check out the link in the description if you want. And with that, I'll close out. I will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.